Hi everyone, welcome back to the 20th Century Man YouTube channel. My name's Christian, and today we're going to be talking about mall culture. Now, I'm not going to talk about the mall in the 90s. Although I did go to the mall in the 90s, I went with family, and I was supervised. So this story really takes place early 2000s. As a teenager, the mall represents something really specific. Something kind of unique. At home or a friend's house, there's always some sort of parental supervision. And the only other place you see your friends is school. But at school, there's always teachers, someone listening. So you're never really free. But the mall was different. Yeah, there was mall security. Yeah, there were shop owners and managers. But that was one of the few places where you could just kind of be in public with your friends without worrying about a teacher or a parent. In a strange way, the mall was where teenagers really learn how to socialize in public. They learn how to be adults. And I know that might seem really funny and hard to believe if you've seen a group of teenagers in public. But they're learning. Slowly, like we all did. And sometimes it's even awkward. Most of the time, it's awkward. My mall years really start around 2004, and they end roughly around 2010. So it was really after high school was when it ended for me. My friends and I went a lot. Friday nights after school, Saturdays, and sometimes both. And this wasn't some giant glamorous mall. It was a one-story mall in a rural town. It wasn't impressive. It was just where we went. It was something for us to do. The local cinema had closed down around 2003, 2004, so we couldn't do that anymore. Like most kids back then, we really didn't buy much at the mall. We just walked around. I was really into cars, and if you have seen any of my earliest videos on this channel, you know that. But even back then, I was really into cars. So I would go to Bookland, and I would go to the back to the magazine section, and that's where I would look at Old Cars Weekly, Hemmings Motor, Hot Rod Magazine. That was always a stop for me. The food court had around 6 small restaurants back then. My favorite was the little pizza place. I think it was called C. Joe's, or T. Joe's, something like that. I know most of my mall experiences did involve pizza. And when I talk about it now, in one way it doesn't sound like fun at all. But that's the thing. I don't really have any clear, specific memories from the mall during that time period. What I remember are the small little interactions. Talking, trying, sometimes successfully, and more than likely, sometimes not, trying to flirt. Getting someone's number, meeting someone that you've never really seen before or talked to much, talking for 10 minutes, exchanging numbers, and that meant everything at the time. You'd go home, add each other on Facebook, or really MySpace and then Facebook, and for that brief moment, it felt like something important had happened in your life, and that's what's really wholesome about it. Even if teenage thoughts weren't always pure, the process was. We had a routine. Sears, the little arcade, Radio Shack, JCPenney, Bookland. Not because we wanted anything specific, but because standing still just felt wrong. We felt like we were supposed to be moving, but the place we really liked to go to was called the Sound Shop. That was the place to be. They sold CDs, posters, movies, and I had bought a lot of CDs and movies there along the way. But that's not why we loved it. We liked hanging out with the manager, or at least I think he was the manager. We called him Parm, short for Parmesan. He was a really cool guy. He was a few years older than us, and we just thought he was the epitome of cool. He's actually cousins with Snoop Dogg, which we just thought that was so amazing. So we'd hang out with him all the time, talk, browse, just exist really. The last couple of years, I really started hanging out with this guy named Steven. He was a year younger than I was, but we had similar backgrounds. His family knew my family, and it was more of the same, really. Aimlessly walking around the mall for hours. And that's what most of it really was. Aimless. And that's not really a bad thing. As an adult looking back, I realize how lucky that was. We really didn't have anything to do. We weren't doing drugs and fighting everybody. We were having fun. And we weren't forced into anything either. We were just there. My generation wasn't drafted into a war. So, we just tried to have as much fun as a teenager as possible because we knew eventually it would end. We were just trying to have fun while we could. Even if we really weren't saying it out loud, we all knew it would end. Except, I think the very last year, 2010. We knew for sure it wouldn't last. We knew things were really changing. Sean had joined the Marines, and he would be shipped off to Japan, Afghanistan. Tim moved away in 9th grade, out of state. And a couple of years later, I went to Alaska for a while. Everyone's life just went in different directions. They also had decided to remodel the mall. Not a huge remodel, but they eliminated 4 of the restaurants. And in the place of those restaurants, they put a Rue 21 that lasted about 10 years before it closed down. Then Sears closed. And even though this was the late 2000s by this point, and cell phones were basically everywhere, there wasn't a time where I always had one. So getting home meant planning ahead. You'd agree on a certain time and place to be, or you'd have some change and use a payphone. And that's the really strange part. It's really what I would call like a transitional moment in time. So many people had cell phones already, and they were commonplace, but payphones were still everywhere. And shortly after the remodel happened, we had a very big storm, and the roof caved in on the sound shop, and there was water damage. And instead of trying to repair it, the place just closed down. And it sat vacant for a couple of years, that store, until something else took its place. So the last year there, we had a choice of eating Chinese food or ice cream in the mall, but we would also walk across the street and either go to McDonald's or Burger King, or we would go directly across the street to Walmart, and in the back of Walmart they had a Subway at the time. So we would go back there and spend $5 and get a footlong, and then everything ended. Not suddenly, just quietly. Looking back now, what stands out isn't anything specific. It wasn't about buying CDs or a movie or pizza. It was about going somewhere with your friends, unsupervised, in public, a place where you could let your guard down, learn how to be around people when you're not at school or at home. When you think about school, so many of your memories are just with your friends. But in the grand scheme of things, you really don't get that much time together as kids. An hour and a half, maybe a day. Seeing them between classes, during your breaks, during your lunch, before school and after school. The rest of the time you're in class. Not supposed to be talking. And yet those moments shaped everything. I don't remember too much sitting in class learning about anything. I do, but most of my memories are just those moments when you're not doing that, hanging out with friends. And you really don't realize how fast it changes until it's all over. The mall wasn't really a special place because of what happened there. It was special because nothing had to happen there. And once that's gone, we really didn't have anything else to replace it with. I've taken my daughter to the mall a couple of times, and she's not going to meet friends. We're just going together to do something or just to get out of the house. And I know we were there one Friday night, and I look around and there's maybe 5 teenagers in the whole mall. And a Friday night 15 or 16 years prior, it would have been busy. And I guess things have just changed. There's more entertainment to be had when you're at home now than there was then. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I think the mall did teach us a lot of valuable lessons. It taught us how to interact with each other in the real world, face to face. And that's all I have for this episode. Let me hear your comments, please. If you remember going to the mall as a teen and you have good stories, funny stories, not so good stories, let me hear them. I enjoy it. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. It does help. I have plenty more videos on the way. My name is Christian, and this is 20th Century Man. Thank you. Until next time.